This is yet another prelude that can be broken down at its core to just melody and harmony, where the right hand plays a nice melody, while the left hand gives us a bass note and chords. But this being a Chopin prelude, after all, things are not that simple. And the theme of this prelude, the building block, the rhythmic fragment that we've discussed so often that defines this prelude, is that the harmony isn't given to us via chords, rather it's suggested by two melodic lines, separate melodic lines that start together and move apart in different directions. Executing this properly requires very fine control of the pedal, a lot of half pedaling as we discussed in a previous episode with the Chopin A major prelude. It also requires careful fingering and careful articulation so that the two lines sound good separately and together, so that they're not too disjointed. So we're gonna talk about the technique required for this piece. But before that, let's just briefly, maybe not so briefly, analyze it, mostly harmonically, because it is, at the end of the day, just melody and harmony. So this piece is basically in three sections. We got an A section that defines the theme, got a B section, and then the A section, kind of like a reprise, but in a very funky way. At the beginning, in the A section, the chords are pretty obvious. You can really use the bass note to not really give you an idea, to just actually tell you what chord this is. If we take a look at the bass note, it was a B flat and then a B flat in the next measure, and in the right hand our melody was on an F and a D. This is very clearly a B flat major chord. We are in the key of B flat after all, and we start in that very same key. Now, I do want to talk about this. Let's get this out of the way now. How do these two separate melodic lines that start together here and move apart, how do these suggest B flat major? And it's a very interesting question because, as we'll see throughout the piece, sometimes it's rather ambiguous. It's not very, very clear. It's true that the two lines start on F, which is a note in B flat, and I think that usually is the case everywhere, as we'll see. But after that, it quickly becomes more difficult. I mean, this E and G doesn't have much relation to the chord of B flat. In the next eighth note, the next chord, what we have is an E flat and an A. And this definitely doesn't have anything to do with B flat, except these are actually notes that make part of F7. Look, if we rearrange the notes, we have an F7. And F7 is the dominant, the fifth, it's the chord that wants to resolve to B flat major. So putting everything together with the bass note here, the second note, which is part of the chord, these passing chords, including this one, which is the fifth, that moves directly to B flat, we can start to see how this whole these two melodic lines that start together and move apart, how they suggest B flat. I mean, sometimes they really are B flat, sometimes it's the fifth of B flat, sometimes it's just passing notes like over here, but they do, in a pretty real way, give us the sensation of B flat. Let's apply this to the next chord. So after what about here? Well, we've landed with an E flat in the bass, so we're already thinking E flat, the chord E flat. That is the 4 in the key of B flat major, 1, 2, 3, 4. And sure enough, the next note is this G over here, which makes part of the E flat major chord. In the melody, we do have a D, so this does imply an E flat major 7. And if we take a look at how these two melodic lines separate apart, we see a quick ambiguity. We have this passing chord. Here, this F and this B, these imply a G7 chord, and G7 generally will resolve to C minor. And sure enough, look at that, this is C minor. So even though our root note is an E flat, so we're really thinking this is an E flat chord, we're kind of suggesting more of a C minor chord. And this isn't too surprising. Recall that a 4 chord, like E flat, is very similar to the 2 chord, C minor. They share these two notes, this E flat and this G, right? Here's your E flat, here's your C minor. And then in the next one, the next chord, we have a C in the bass, and now we're clearly suggesting a C minor, right? C, this G note is part of C minor. We got the passing chord. We got this G7, C minor. So to recap, we have our 1 chord again, our 4 chord in the major 7 version, to the 2 chord, and sure enough, once you see a 2, you should be expecting a 5 followed by the 1. In the key of B flat major, we're talking 2, 5, 1. And sure enough, after the 2 chord, we have, what is this? This is very clearly an F major chord. This is our 5. The ambiguity becomes even more, ambiguous and strained over here. It's true that we have kind of like a passing note here, which moves to an F. So this isn't too complicated. This is weird. This B flat and this G flat have nothing to do with F major. But they're more like passing notes that move us directly here. This is very clearly an F major chord. And then here, again, it's kind of hard to, at some point you just have to memorize what these notes are, because you can't reason and logic your way through it. Like, okay, how are these notes suggesting an F major chord? At some point you just have to be like, okay, the bottom voice is gonna move chromatically. Notice that chromaticism. A lot of chromaticism in this piece. It's what also adds to the ambiguity. And then you just have to memorize the melody in the upper voice. What is it? It's do 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 do. Once again, there was a lot of chromaticism there. Excuse me. You see that lower voice? Very chromatic again. So the beginning is pretty straightforward. We've got our 1 chord. Whoops. Excuse me. To the 4 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord, 5 again, to the 1 chord. After that, again, it's pretty straightforward. We have some chords that are pretty clearly suggested. We have our G minor. Look in the bass, we have a G. In the melody, we have a B flat. This is pretty clearly a G minor chord. This is the 6th in the key of B flat. And sure enough, again, we have the same sort of pattern in those 2 voices that move apart. We start on D, which is part of the G minor chord. We have some passing notes. Here, the C and this F sharp, sure enough, this suggests a D7 chord, which is the 5 of G minor. So same pattern that we've seen before. Back to the 1 chord. 4 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord. Now we've reached the end of the A section, and this is where the ambiguity is ramped up even more. Once we've landed on this 5, this F major, both hands do the same thing, but I'm not so sure how much we're suggesting a chord. Oh, excuse me. We land back on B flat major, and sure enough, this section over here suggests B flat major. It's just like at the beginning, you see? Same notes as the beginning. But what is this? Again, the bottom voice is very chromatic. So I have a lot of chromaticism over here, while the upper voice has just a melody. So again, I'm not sure. We've landed on F, so we would think we're suggesting an F chord with this weird stuff. But we're also kind of suggesting a B flat major chord. So once again, at some level, you can't just reason this out. You just have to memorize, okay, the bottom voice is going to do a lot of chromaticism, and the upper voice has this melody. We'll see this same sort of pattern and real ambiguity later on in the reprise of the A section. But let's talk about the B section for a moment. The B section is in G flat major. It's out of the blue. This G flat major chord has nothing to do with B flat. In B flat, G minor would be our 6th. A G flat major is like a major flat 6 chord, which is, it really hits you out of the blue. Now I'm reminded, I can't help myself to not bring this up. I'm pretty sure I've seen a clip of Glenn Gould talking about Chopin and how he's not a very good composer. And I think I understand why for Gould, Chopin was not a good composer. And I think something like this has to do with it, because we have this beautiful prelude with this very interesting theme of a harmony being suggested by these 2 separate voices. And then out of the blue, we have this, which has nothing to do with the theme, neither the key nor the theme of the prelude. It's just really out of the blue. On the other hand, not only does it sound nice, I remember my mom's not really down with this piece too much, except for this B section. She really likes how the B section just comes out of nowhere, just like a ray of sunshine. So yeah, different opinions, everybody with their own tastes. So let's talk about this B section. It's pretty straightforward with one exception. I mean, nothing's really that straightforward in Chopin or Bach. The melody is very simple. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. But even though the melody continues in this rhythm of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, just like the rest of the piece, the accompaniment, what the left hand does, it's in groups of 2. You can see that things start repeating. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And even in the next section again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This juxtaposition of the melody being in 3 and the accompaniment being in 2 creates an interesting rhythmic imbalance. Let me emphasize it a bit more. Let me emphasize the accompaniment, the fact that it's 2, 1, 2. they do line up sometimes, because if you think about it mathematically, you repeat something every 3 times and something else every 2 times, they will line up at some point. But yeah, it creates an interesting imbalance. Very cool. After this B section, we're back into the A section in Reprise, and this is where the ambiguity becomes pretty big. So we have this is called a pedal point. We have a bunch of measures where there is clearly a chord change, but we keep this F in the bass. These melodic lines is just like at the beginning. Recall that this suggests a B flat. So sure, we're starting again in B flat, except we have this F in the bass. Now we have like our E flat major 7 chord. Again, this thing suggests is the E flat is just like at the beginning, same notes. And then we're hit with this. Whoops. And I guess this suggests a D minor chord. Again, we have an A, which is part of D minor. We have these passing notes. We have this G and this A sharp, which should strike you as part of an A7 chord, which resolves to D minor. And then here, really not sure what we're suggesting. I guess we're suggesting an E flat. If we follow this pattern of we're starting on a note in the chord, we have a passing chord, we have our 7. This right here suggests a B flat 7 chord, which is the 5 of E flat. But rather than memorizing this harmonic analysis, I generally just remember that, okay, I have an F in the bass that gets repeated, and what I'm gonna do, I've got this pattern, and I'm just gonna repeat it 1 whole step up. Repeat it again, 1 whole step up. And again, a half step up. Now we've got this little section over here, and then we have the biggest ambiguity of all, this long descending except for the end over here, where we've clearly landed on an F7, which resolves to B flat. It's very ambiguous what is going on. The first 2 measures are pretty much identical to what we saw at the end of the original A section. And then over here, same stuff. And then we've got something different. So to memorize this, which can be pretty difficult, again, you can't rely on the harmonic analysis. Just recognize that we have, once again, a lot of chromaticism. While the upper voice has a melody. What is it? So it's some do 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 do. I suggest playing the 2 voices separately and to really memorize them and then putting them together. After this, at the end of the A reprise section, we're pretty much in the clear. I mean, we've landed on B flat. We've got a 5 chord. 5 chord. G minor. Sounds very cool. I would say this is an F7. G minor, F7, B flat. F, B flat. Let me end by giving you a tip. If you have a little trouble memorizing this ending section, notice something. Notice that we're essentially contouring a B flat chord, right? We're ending in B flat. So, check this out. Take that group of 3 notes. We are targeting this B flat, which is part of our B flat major chord, and we're hitting the 2 notes around it. And then we repeat. We're gonna target this D note, and we're gonna get the 2 notes around it. What's the next note in a B flat triad? F. And again, we're gonna target the F by giving the 2 notes around it. And we end on D, which is again part of B flat. So all of this of that nonsense is just contouring a B flat chord. Very cool. 5, 1. So that is the harmonic, rhythmic analysis of the Prelude. It's very interesting to see it as a whole. Very, very cool piece. I love it a lot. Let's just spend a couple of minutes talking about the technique required for it, because we're starting to reach pieces that are fairly complicated technically. First of all, you need to pedal well. So before the pedaling, you need to choose a fingering for these 2 lines such that I don't think it's possible to choose a fingering such that both melodic lines are strictly legato. I don't think it's possible. And in fact, of all the editions that I've had of the Preludes, I don't think any of them have done that. I think all of them basically said, choose a fingering where the bottom voice is legato and the top voice is not. Now, it's up to you. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you want to choose a fingering so that the top voice is the one that's legato and the bottom voice is not. Or I don't know, maybe there's a way you can make both of them legato, but I'm not so sure. Me personally, I think it sounds better to have the bottom melody be legato. So your fingering, if you're gonna do this, you should choose a fingering so that you can essentially play like this. This is actually a very good practice tip, okay? Force yourself to make the bottom voice legato, like this. You see, I'm quickly getting rid of the top voice, but I'm forcing legato on the bottom voice. This applies as well to these weird sections over here, where I choose a fingering such that you can play the left hand like this. See, you're making the bottom voice legato. What's next? Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of crossing of your hands. Look at this. From this 5, I'm getting my 3 over it. From the 4, I'm putting my 3 over it. While in the right hand, I think the melody, the top voice, is what you should really make ring out. So practice like this. You see how the bottom voice, I'm just letting it go? So once you've chosen this fingering, you just need to be careful about the articulation. You don't want to make the voice that's not legato, like super staccato. Really do try to articulate it so that it's, imagine that it is legato, even though it's not. Try to imagine that it is. Somehow it actually makes a difference, and it's gonna sound, well, it's not gonna sound legato, but it will sound more cohesive. Now, once you have this fingering and this articulation, really the secret is pedaling. If you pedal the way Chopin wrote this, it's not gonna sound very good. What you wanna do is you want to do two things. First of all, in my opinion, especially on the resonance of a modern piano, you do want to keep the pedal down so that you hear that bass. That bass is very nice, very important. You don't want to get rid of it too early. But if you don't lift up your pedal, if you don't start clearing out the sound, you're going to get hit with a clash very quickly, right on the third, eighth note. Okay? Big clash, big clash. 1, 2, 3. Big clash, way too big of a clash. So on the one hand, you need to start clearing the pedal so that you don't have this clash. On the other hand, you don't want to clear too much because you want to hold on to that bass note. The solution, as always, is half pedaling. Look back on my A major Prelude episode where we really dig into the pedal and how to half pedal, everything about the pedal. And you essentially need to do that. You need to start pumping the pedal. You can see the practice tips in that episode so that you can keep hearing that bass note. It's still there a little bit, but I've cleared enough of the sound so that I don't have too much of a clash. I mean, you just cannot have the pedal down while you're doing chromatic stuff. Too messy, too messy. So work on that, work on half pedaling and play the left hand slowly. And notice that right on the third, eighth note, you already have to start pumping that pedal. And then with every eighth note, you pump it more and more. I do think it helps to use the pedal to make the top melody a bit legato, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. Don't use the pedal to try to make things legato. I don't think it's going to sound very good. Separate discussion over there. Use the pedal so that you can keep hearing that harmony in the bass note. And use your fingerings and your articulation to make the bottom voice legato, while the top voice is kind of legato. It's more like a portato. It's not staccato, but it's not super legato. That's kind of it for the technique in this piece. You just really need to work on that pedaling and the fingering and the articulation so that you can hear those two lines separate out. And practice by forcing a legato on one of the voices, like this. What's next? All right, that was the piece. I hope this was helpful. Let's play it. How are we doing on time? All right, 30 minutes or something. Not too shabby. Let's see if we can do this in one take. It's been a while since I've had one take. Boom.